Hello everyone, a little bit about myself. So I just recently graduated from Sac State and I work as a software engineer at KPMG. So some of the recent projects that I did was in the area of chatbots. So I wanted to give a brief introduction to you guys about what this technology is and what kind of impact uh, you can do to the society around you with this technology. So why you must be interested in in these frameworks like chatbots? Why? So all over the world, billions of people already use messaging apps, and they are also most frequently used apps on anybody's cell phones. And most of the customers always expect you to give 24/7 customer care support. And also, most people would prefer to use your services more if it is on a conversational user interface. So you would rather prefer to text your text a number to book your movie tickets, or maybe like to order your pizza, rather than going on a website and filling up a form. Um, and there are also some surveys that show that billions of dollars could be saved in the areas of insurance, financial technology, sales, and customer service sectors. And moreover, these technologies are more accessible to small-scale businesses and common people than ever before. And you can also build a chatbot with just a handful of developers in just a matter of months. So one of the biggest problems that you face when you start building a chatbot is how you process the natural language. So natural language is something like English or Spanish. So you want to understand what the user meant when he said something. So typically you would need an army of GPUs and some really huge amounts of data, which only huge companies have, like Google or Facebook. So that's why people were not able to build these, even though a lot of concepts in the area of natural language processing are pretty old, like the mathematical concepts. So now you don't need these anymore. There are some really big players in natural language processing area. So one of the pioneers in this technology is IBM's Watson. You might have heard about it a lot, but if you want to purchase their services on IBM Bluemix, it's really costly to do natural language processing. But they really have a good stack, so you can develop apps really faster on IBM's platform. And then we have Microsoft's LUIS, which is Language Understanding and Implementation System. So they also break down the natural language into information that you can process easily in your backend services. And then we have Facebook's Vid.ai, which they recently acquired from some startup company. And then we have Google's API.AI. So Vid.ai and API.ai, both of them are completely free frameworks out there. You don't have to pay them a single penny. So today I'll be showing you how you can use API.ai to build a chatbot really fast. So like I said, the first problem is understanding the natural language. So what any natural language engine does is it takes plain text and breaks it down into intents and entities. So let's look at one example. So the user wants to say, how is weather in Sacramento tomorrow? So the intent is the user wants to do a weather, like a weather inquiry, like he wants to do a fetch that data. And then if we look at that sentence, there are two entities, which is one is location and the other is time. So the location could be something like Sacramento, or you can give a county name, or you can give a state's name, and time you can say something like tomorrow or Thursday or a date. And also, like another example, any news about the British elections. So here you can see that the intention of the user is to inquire about the news, and then the entity there is about the British elections. So once you break natural language down into these simple elements, you can just basically write a program around it, which would function like how it would in any backend services. So let me show you a simple example on how the console looks like on API.ai. So Donna is one of the bots that I'm creating. So she's going to be my personal secretary, and I'm going to host it on my personal website, so it can answer some questions about my resume and about my education and all my experience and everything. So you can create a new agent, so they just call them agents. So you can create a new agent by clicking here, but I won't be going through that entire process because it's very lengthy, and you just have to fill a form. I wish they put a chatbot there. So it gives you two intents by default. So one is a welcome intent and the other is a fallback intent. So fallback intent gets triggered whenever the bot doesn't understand anything. So the welcome intent is whenever you start a conversation. Example, you want to say hello or something like that. So you can add some invocations here. For example, let's just say hello. Yeah, so you can add some phrases here, but then when the machine learning kicks in, it starts learning from the inputs that users are giving. So so we have the simple text response. So if you want to just generate a simple text response, you can do that by just adding them here. So each time, every time the user contacts triggers this intent, he'll get a different response. So let's just say hi. So it just says hello back. So let's just try to now ask the user's name, right? So let's just say, let's remove everything else here and try to say, hi, what is your name? And then we save it. So once you save your intent, it is, now let us try saying hello again. So it asks you what is, so this is a simple, like a text, if you want to generate a simple text response. So now once the bot says what is your name, what kind of an intention a user might have. So his intention is to give a name, right? So let us create an intent now, and let's call it something like name intent. And the user would say, I am John. Okay. So once you do that, they have some inbuilt entities. So something like, so we have first name and last name already built in, so it recognizes already. But if you say my name, I am sure it won't recognize it. Yep, it doesn't. So what you can do is you can just go there and train your system. So once you do that and save it, so you already have it. So now let's go ahead and say I am, okay, so now it won't say anything back because we haven't added anything as a response. So what you can do here is, let us just say welcome. Yeah, so you can simply access whatever the user has said directly by just using the $sign. So you can use simple, to and fro text responses for small talk, but you cannot do any complex operations here. Like for example, your user says, I have an issue with your application. I want to contact some customer care personnel. Maybe you want to generate a ticket for them or something like that. So if you want to contact ServiceNow or something like that, you cannot do. So you can use this as a way to do small talk. If they ask you something like, how are you? You can just say, I'm good. So once we saved it, so let's say make it, so you can see it says welcome. So now let's look at more complex examples. So if you wanted to create an entity, so if you want to create custom entities, So this is one of the bots that I was developing for the engineering college in Sac State. So this is a bot that works as a help desk for the computer engineering department. So you can ask this bot about, you can tell her your interests, like I'm interested in operating system, she would suggest courses. And then you can ask her what are prerequisites for a course, or you can ask about who's teaching that course, and if it says okay, so and so professor is teaching it, you can ask her about what his office hours are or what his email address is, something like that. So if you see, I have created some entities here. So if you see area, right? So we have operating systems, compiler construction. So you can also name some synonyms. So people can say something like systems programming instead of operating systems, or so you can add some names, and then so whenever systems programming gets so if user says systems programming, it would still generate an entity called operating systems. So it would be easier on your side to program with a simple switch case rather than handling multiple, a vast number of inputs. Okay, so we have our intents and we have our entities. So once we have this, the next step here would be is to handle them. So here you cannot do a simple input text response generation. So we need to contact some kind of complex business logic. So let's look at the not interest inquiry. This is a bit complex. Okay. Let's look at a prerequisite inquiry. So this intent is if the user wants to ask what are prerequisites for CSE 239, right? So we have two things. We have a department name and then the course number. So provided these two, we need to see what are prerequisites for those courses. So how I'm able to do this is, so first of all, we are in the actions we are saying certain parameters are required. So you cannot finish this, you cannot trigger the ultimate intent unless you finish all these, you gather all this data. So for example, if I ask just what are prerequisites, okay. So I'm just asking what are prerequisites. So it's asking me, please provide the department, or so if I just say CSE 20, yeah, so it keeps on asking unless you just have to check that required box. So now, so once you do that, instead of sending the text response directly from here, you would be using a webhook. So if you go under the fulfillment tab, here you can add a URL from where you are handling this logic. So I hosted this on Heroku, and then the code is already on my GitHub account and it's directly linked. So you can see we also have something called as actions. Okay, so we are triggering an action called interest inquiry. So that's the one that's generating the response back. Okay, so here we are handling that. One more thing, so once you ask this question, it also generates a JSON object. So this is what is being sent to your backend hook. So if you see, we have an ID, so that's the conversation ID, and then a timestamp about when this conversation is happening. So a lot of not very important stuff, and then here you can see we have the action's name, which is prerequisite, and then we have the action incomplete, and which means that we haven't generated a response for that so far, and then we have the parameters. That we are passing the department's name and the number. Yeah, so other things we'll discuss a little bit in the future. So this is being sent to the webhook, which is a simple Express server in my case. So it's yeah. I'm searching for that. Yeah. So if you see here, we are saying, okay, if the action is prerequisite, then just send the information back to the user. So in this case, we have for CSE20, I'm not doing any complex database things here. For CSE20, there are no prerequisites, so it's saying there are no prerequisites. Okay, so this is a little bit easier stuff, so we can handle until this part. So this is how it happens. So we have the plain text coming in from the user interface. The natural language processing engine breaks it down into intents and entities, and then you have your backend services which generate plain text responses. So this is where it gets interesting. So for example, let's look at this dialog flow. So I'm asking, I'm interested in operating systems, can you suggest some courses? And it's suggesting me CSE 139, which is an operating systems class. So now I'm asking it, who is teaching this course? So the important thing here is I'm not again saying who is teaching CSE 139, I'm asking it who is teaching this course. So now it should know what this course is. So you have to keep state. So you have to keep context of where you are in a conversation at all times. And sometimes I can say an yes or no answer. I can just say sure. It has to know what was the last question or what was the last topic that we were discussing. So multiple frameworks handle this in multiple ways. So if you look at Microsoft's bot framework, so you have to write that logic by yourself. So you would have to write a simple state machine. So you will have multiple states and one intent triggers it from one state to the other. So you would be in a welcome state. Once the user says hi, so you would be in, I'm inquiring about his first name and last name state. So once the user says his first name and last name, then you would go into the, I'm asking how can I help him state. So that way you would write a simple state machine and your intents would trigger them from one state to the other state. And at any time, and then you also have your own agenda, right? So you want to push him towards a goal state. The user can wander away in a conversation. He can at some point just say, I love cake, because he wants to say that. So the user should have free will, but at the same time you want to push him towards a goal state, not very harshly. So and at the same time he's going to talk in natural language, so you have to always keep a state like, okay, what was the last topic that is being discussed. So there are multiple ways in which you can do this. So in API.AI, so the one way to do this would be is you can just go here and then add a follow-up intent. So they offer a lot of follow-up intents. For example, you can say yes or no, later, cancel. So multiple things like that, which you would say to a simple yes or no question or any conversation that's happening. And you can also store information in form of context. I won't be showing that as part of our demo, but I think you'll get the idea. Yeah, so whenever you are sending the response back, you can see here we have the context out. So you can store all sorts of what was the last course that is being discussed and all other important information that you would need in the future. And then one more interesting feature that API.AI offers is you can integrate it with Google Home. So if you check this out, this is the coolest part of this framework. So you can do one-step integrations with a lot of messaging apps. So you can integrate it with Facebook, Slack, a lot of things. Half of them I don't even know what they are. So I have already set up a connection with Actions on Google, but I don't have the device here. If I had it, it would have been cool to show you guys. So let us just test it. Okay. So we have a simulator though. Okay, so I named my CPE help desk bot Sarah because with my thick Indian accent, that's the only name it catches. Because I tried to name it Cooper, and every time I say Cooper, it says I'm saying Google for some reason. So let's try now. Talk to Sarah. got it. So I can ask her something like, right, I'm giving a demo, right? So I can say, what are prerequisites for CSE 20? Yeah, normally it would also give like with some voice. Uh, it will also like read it out, read it back to you. So you can just put this up on your Google Home. You just have to publish your app. So folks at Google just want to make sure that you are not putting any adult content on it, and it's not doing any like something bad. But apart from that, yeah. So you can just publish your apps and set it up on any Google Home device. Apart from that, one more good thing is you can directly post, you don't have to use anything else. You can post your query, your natural language input from any platform basically. So you can just send your query in form of plain text through a RESTful call to their endpoint given here, and you will get back a response in this JSON format, the JSON format that I showed you earlier. So you can put it on all sorts of IoT devices. So you can just run a Node.js instance on maybe like Intel Edison, and then connect all your home devices to it, like smart lights and everything. So you will be like Iron Man at your own home. Yeah. So yeah, uh, that's it for today. Any questions? Right. Yeah, sure.
You mentioned how in the example, how in a sentence that someone might say, it's looking for the intent, right?
Uh-huh.
These things. What does it do anything with the other information, like the, what is the weather in Sacramento tomorrow? Like, what is, or those other words? Does it do anything with it, or is it really just looking for those keywords?
It's I think it's just looking for what you are training it to do. So it's not going to be a universal bot. So if you're writing if you're developing an application that's going to be a simple service desk bot, if you ask it who's president of United States, it may not know because you haven't given abilities for it to detect that. But there are some pre-built bots actually. So uh, uh, I forgot to talk about that. So if any of you are interested about, or like if you are working in any specific industry and you want to build bots in that area, so there are some pre-built agents that you can use. So all you will have to do is just write the backend services for it. So yeah, so you have all these things. So you can just import any one of those and then just start building your apps. Yeah.
Does this support other languages than English?
Yes, it does. Actually, I forgot to talk about that also. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, so I'm just winging it. Really. Um, let's see. Yeah, you can select languages. There's English, Espanol, French, Italian. Yeah, there's a lot. No Hindi. Yeah. Yes.
If we have an entity that is supposed to be from a certain list, is the checking against that list automatic, or do I need to write it myself, like in the back? For example, I'm looking for a campground, right? And I have a list of campgrounds. And can it check it automatically, or?
Actually, they expose some APIs where you can add all your training data. So you will have to bootstrap this application into being. So at the beginning, so in the beginning, you will have to create in not you'll have to add some training data, some phrases and some words in there. So then you can publish your app and ask your users to use it. So once they start interacting with your bot, you can just go to the training. So I did not show this because this is still in beta version. So you can just go here and make sure and see if your bot is performing well. If it's not, then you can train it. So there is also an option in entities where you can say, you can ask the bot to expand it automatically. So whenever a user says something, and if it feels like, okay, this could belong in this category, it will add it there. So this is just basically some machine learning model that's sitting under there. But if you wanted to do these things just by yourself, it's not about, a lot of these models are already written. You can just clone some repositories and set it up. But the main problem that we will be facing is, whenever it comes to machine learning, you need really good like the computing power and then really good data. So these companies already have them. That's why they are able to provide them at such cheaper prices. Yeah, true democratization of AI. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
So you taught it basically that your name is a name, right?
Yeah.
That was just for your system, though. Like you weren't actually teaching the system overall that, hey, this could actually be a name, and so like the next time someone else creates one of these, that won't be in there. It's like you're basically like forking this and doing everything.
Yeah, it's going to be just in my model, but I think English names are really good, and but Indian names it doesn't recognize.
I have a Japanese name, so it wouldn't
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Mark is Japanese.
He makes airbags that are called, right?
Hey, we went bankrupt.
No other questions? One in the back.
Yes.
So what if you have like complex sentences, and there's like multiple intents? Would you go? I don't know if you know this. So like, what if there's like, how do you enter the intents? Like, what if there's like multiple like possible intents and possible responses in the same question?
Yeah, so that's the really important part, right? So whenever you start building a bot, so one thing that you and your team might want to do is sit in a room and brainstorm what all kinds of intents that your user might have. So if he doesn't, if so, so one of the things that API.AI has is it captures small talk. So you cannot go ahead and train your bot to catch if it is. So some of the interesting questions that people ask bots are something like, "Will you marry me?" or "Who built you?" So there are questions like that which are small talk or things that the intents that you cannot imagine for the application that you have in mind. So in that case, what you might want to do is just say, in case of small talk, go do something else. But if it is in some of the intents that I specified, then do the backend service that I wrote. So one of the cool ideas that I've been working on recently is natural language programming, which is more or less like you would just sit relaxedly in front of your computer and you would ask, I want to write a C program. So it would just create a .c file for you. Then you say, okay, create an object for me, or like put so and so fields on my object. Write a function for me, or so yeah. If anybody's interested, just let me know. I could use some help because I'm doing it by myself. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.